Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to crochet the large Sunburst half Hexie, a mouthful for sure. I'm going to be using a 5mm hook, where is it? There it is, or size H. And I'm going to be using some cotton acrylic yarn from We Crochet. It's called Comfy. It's a worsted weight. The color I'm using is Silver Sage. Okay, it's this really soft green color. And all of this information can be found in the description below. You can use any yarn for this project and for this hexagon. You just have to make sure that you have the appropriate hook size for your yarn. So let's get started. First, I'm going to show you how to do the half Sunburst, okay? And then I'm going to show you how to do the round that turns it into a hexagon. Then I'll rip that out, and then I'm going to show you how to do the join as you go portion. Okay, so I want to show both ways because I know not everybody's going to be using a join as you go to join their hexies together. Some people might want to slip stitch their projects together in the end. So I'll show both ways in this tutorial. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with a slip knot, okay? You can do yours any way. Doesn't matter if it looks like mine or not. Oh, my yarn's all tangled here. Okay, so we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook, and we are going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to create a loop, and let's get this out of the way here so that you can actually see the video clearly. That's better. Okay, now we're going to slip stitch into the 4th chain from our hook, okay, to create a center ring that we're going to be working into. So just slip stitch that together, okay? You should have a little ring that looks like that. Now, so that I don't have to sew my ends in, I'm going to drop my hook and I'm going to reach my finger underneath and get my tail. I'm going to tightly wrap my tail around that ring a few times, and then that will prevent me from having to sew in that end at the end of the little hexagon project. Okay, now I'm going to chain 3. This is going to count as our first double crochet, and I'm going to work 9 more into the center of this ring while holding that tail around there. Okay, so that we have a total of 10 stitches. So we're going to count this chain 3 as 1, and I'm going to do 9 more. So 1, 2, 3, and if it starts to loosen up on you, just snug it up tight. Not too much, just a little bit, because you don't want to ruin the hole and have to fight yourself. How many have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now we have our little half circle. Let's double check that we have 10 stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now I'm going to do a slip knot and fasten off. Okay, I'm going to leave, you know, about 4 inches, and I'm going to snug that up. So we have our little thing, our little half circle here. I'm going to snug up my starting tail. Okay, not too much, but you can actually cut that off. Okay, we worked around it a few times, so we can cut that off. If you don't want to do it that way and it's too fiddly or whatever, that's fine. Just sew that end in. Okay, so this is the front of our work. I'm going to flip it around so that the back of the stitches are facing me. And I'm going to take this end and just weave it into these back loops. Okay, that first one can be a little tricky. Shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so just weave it into the next 4 or 5 back loops of those stitches. I'm all shaky here this morning. Too much coffee already. And I have another one right over, and I'm like dying to take a sip. Now we're going to flip it over so the front of our stitches are facing me. Okay, and we're going to weave this tail back through those back loops. Okay. Excuse my throat clearing. It's allergy season. And we're just going to leave that. We're not going to cut that off yet. I'm going to work my next round, okay, before cutting that tail off. So at the right side of our work, I'm going to join into the top of my chain 3. So that was chain 1, chain 2, chain 3, and I'm going to make sure that I have 2 loops on my hook from that chain 3. Okay, so I've inserted my hook. I'm just going to take my yarn. Now I'm making a solid colored Sunburst Hexie. If you want to use a different color, now's your chance to change up that color. Okay, I'm using the same color, so I just grab my yarn again, drape it over my hook, and pull through the top of that chain. Now I'm going to yarn over both of those tails and secure that. So that's my join and a chain 1 all in one. I'm going to drop the tail and just pick up my working yarn. I'm going to chain 2 more for a total of chain 3. Okay, now we're going to work our puff stitches. So to do a puff stitch, we're going to work into the top of this first stitch here. Okay, so we're going to want this loop and that one. Let me grab my, because sometimes it can be pulled apart a little bit. See how it looks like it's pulled apart and there's a little hole? But we want to make sure we get both of these when we insert our hook. Move him off to the side. So we're going to work a puff stitch. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. We're going to pull up to the height of that chain 3, okay? Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up another loop, okay? We're going to do that one more time. Okay, so we should have 2, 4, 6, 7 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 7 and chain 1 to lock that in place. And we're just going to do that 7 more times till we get to the other side. On the back, you want to, on the back, you want to make sure that you're working over that starting tail, okay? So let's work our next puff stitch. Okay, 1, 2, 3, pull through, chain 1, and you go all the way around to the other side. I'm still working over that tail in the back, but I'm going to drop that now. I'll drop that and I'll weave that in, so I'll sew that in after. Okay, I'm going to keep going with my puff stitches. We want a total of 8 puff stitches. How many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to do 1 more. Then I'm going to chain 1, and to finish off this round, I'm going to work into the top of that last stitch here. Okay, see if you can get it in. I'm going to do a double crochet, just like so. Okay, and that's going to give you nice flat straight edges along the edge of that half hexagon. So work a double crochet into that very last stitch there. We're going to fasten off. Okay, now this previous tail from that last round, we can cut that. Okay, that was the one we wove into the back of the stitches. You can cut that off. And now we're going to take our one that just finished and we're going to weave those into the top of that back loop, okay? And I like to do this as I go along just because, I don't know, I find it easier, faster, cleaner, quicker, you name it. Okay, flip it back so that the front's facing me and then weave that tail back. And then once we work our next round over top, then we can cut that tail off. You don't have to sew it in. You're still going to have sewing. Unfortunately, the little half hexagons, they require lots of sewing. There's no trick way to work them up solidly, unfortunately. So this is the starting tail from our puff stitches, and I'm going to leave that. I'm going to sew it in after when we finish our half hexie, and I'll just sew it into the back of these puff stitches. But for now, we're going to work our next round. So we have the front of our work facing us. Excuse me. We are going to insert our hook into the top of the third chain here. on the right side. Drape your yarn over the hook. And now we're going to work our first round of double crochet clusters. Okay, so drop that tail, and we're going to do a total of chain 3. Okay, so my join was a chain 1 and a join all at once, and then 1, 2, so for a total of 3. I'm going to yarn over and work my 4 double crochet cluster into the space between that chain 3 and our first puff stitch. Okay, so I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You should have 5 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, pull through all 5 of those, and chain 2. Okay, I'm still working over the tail in the back, and I'm going to kind of space these puffs a little bit with my finger. I'm just going to stick my finger in the back and create room, and I'm going to work into that chain 1 space between my puffs. That's where I'm going to put my next cluster stitch. Okay. So I've got 5 loops on my hook, yarn over, and then chain 2. And we're going to do that all the way around. We want 9 clusters total. Okay. Oopsie doodle. Cotton yarn, splitty. This yarn isn't too bad, actually. I've really enjoyed working with it. Comparatively speaking, it's one of the better ones, that's for sure. So I'm going to drop my tail in the back, and I'll sew that in later. I'm going to keep going with my cluster stitches. How many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so for this last one here, we're going to make sure we have room here. So get those stitches from behind, find and make room. We're going to work our last cluster into the space between your puff and that double crochet. It's going to be tight, so pull those stitches back. Okay, just pull them back so that that double crochet stitch remains on the outside. 3, 4, 5, okay. Chain 1 on this last one, okay? Chain 1 and then work a double crochet stitch. If you can get it into the top of the double crochet, this last double crochet, then do that. If you can't, because it is really tight, just work it into the space. It's not a big deal, truly, okay? And that creates that nice straight side. We're going to fasten off this color. Now we're going to cut this tail that we had woven into the top of our stitches from the previous round. We're going to cut that off because there's lots going on. We want to get that out of the way. All right. And then the tail that I just cut, we're going to weave it into the top of our stitches here. Again, if you don't want to do it this way, that's totally fine. Just sew it in the way you normally would. 100% personal preference. And it doesn't have to be exact. Like if there's a stitch that's really tight, don't fight it. Just move on to the next, you know? This is supposed to be an enjoyable experience. Okay, I'm going to flip it so that the front of my work is facing me. And I'm going to continue back the way I came from. And then when I work my next round over top, I can just cut that tail off. Okay, good enough. And it looks bulky and kind of sloppy, but you don't see it. Like when you're looking at the front of it, once you work your stitches over it, there's no way you can see that. It ends up being really nice. Okie dokie, last round of cluster stitches. So we are going to work our hook into the top of the chain 3 here, making sure that we get two of those loops. Break. Coffee sip. Excuse me. Coffee. Okay. Drape your yarn over the hook and pull through. Okay, that's my chain 1 and a join all in one. And I am going to chain 4 for this round. My brain kind of skipped a beat there for a second. We're chaining 4 in this round. And then we are going to work our cluster stitch in between our chain 3 and our cluster from the previous round. So we're going to work it into this teeny tiny space here. Okay, this is going to be a 5 double crochet cluster. So it's the same as the previous round, just 1 extra. Okay, so it's just going to be a teeny bit bigger. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Do that again. Okay, and again. And we are going for 6 loops on the hook. So I have 3, 6, yarn over, pull through all of those loops, and we are going to chain 3. Okay, still working over my tail in the back. I'm going to do the same thing into the next chain 2 space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 double crochet cluster with 6 loops on our hook. Pull through all those loops and chain 3. Into my next chain 2 space, I'm going to do the same thing and work my way around. We want, oh, I'm running out of yarn here. We want 9 clusters, 3, 6, 9 clusters, okay, all the way around. I'm still working over my tail. Eventually I will drop it. Three, 6, 1, 2, 3. We're getting there. Ooh, ooh, oh no, I split my yarn. Tragedy. Oh dear. 3, 6. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 more. When we do our last one, our 9th, we're not going to chain 3 at the end of that one. We're going to chain only 1. Okay, 3, 6, and I'll show you why. So this is my last cluster. Okay, I'm going to be working my last one in between these 2. My yarn pulling on me here. 3, 6. Okay, I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to find that last double crochet stitch. Get your tail out of there. Find that last double crochet stitch, okay? Try to work into the top of it. If you can't get your hook through, that's fine, okay? We're going to work 1 double crochet into the top of that. And again, it's just going to create that nice straight edge on our half hexie. Okay, now we get to fasten off. That's it for the large sunburst. Okay, there you have it. I'm going to cut this tail off from the previous round, get that out of here because there's lots of tails and ends going on in this one. So here we have it. Okay, there she be. So I'm going to weave this tail in. And now we're going to actually turn it into a hexagon. And I'm tempted to do the join as you go in a different video, but I don't know. Seems silly to film a whole separate video for that. But what do I know? Flip it over, go back the way you came. Do. Oh my goodness, I went too far, too many stitches. Okay, so now we need to flip it over and sew in those ends, the starting ends from each round. I'm going to grab my needle. Okay, excuse me. And I'm just going to sew into the back of those puff stitches. So it came out here, and I'm just going to skip over that yarn and go back this way through the back of a few puffs, back and forth a couple times. We already worked over it once, so 3 should suffice. Okay, kind of stretch it out. You don't want it to be messy and sloppy. You don't want it to be pulling your stitches on the front. Cut that tail. Next. Okay, so I kind of snug this up because you don't want to see your tail being lumpy through the back of your stitches. So I just kind of give it a gentle tug. Oh dear. Oh. There we go. Okay, and I'm just going to skip over this first one and go through just the back of these 2 cluster stitches. That should be enough. Okay, pull that snug and skip over this first one and just go back this way. Snip. Snug it up so that it's not sloppy. Ooh, the yarn's like all frayed at the ends. And I'm just going to go through the back of these 2. And that's good enough. Good enough. Ran out of yarn. Didn't make that one long enough. Excuse me. Allergies. Now we need to grab our joining yarn, or the yarn that you use for the background of the blanket. I call it joining yarn. Some people call it sashing yarn, whatever you're calling it. The yarn you want to use to turn it into a hexagon. Okay, now I'm going to work my hook in between the chain 4 and our cluster. So I'm just going to insert, drape my joining color over top, pull through. Okay, that's my chain 1 and join all in one. And again, this is I'm just showing you how to turn it into a hexagon for people who want to slip stitch theirs together. Okay, I'll show you the join as you go afterwards. I'm going to chain 2 more. Okay, so this is going to count as your first double crochet, and I'm going to work 3 double crochets into this same space. So 1, 2, and 3. So that's a total of 4 stitches. Then I'm going to work 3 double crochet into the next chain 3 space and 3 double crochet into the next chain 3 space. Okay, this will be the side of your hexagon. So then I'm going to work a corner. I'm going to do 4 double crochet, chain 1, 4 double crochet, all into the same space. Okay, 4, chain 1, and then I'm going to work 4 more double crochet into that spot. Whoopsie doodle, slipping. What was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'm going to work the top of the hexagon. So I'm going to do 3 and 3. So 3 double crochet into the next chain 3 space. And 3 double crochet into the next chain 3 space. Whoops. Oh my goodness. Okay, now I'm going to work my next corner. So I'm going to do 4 double crochet, chain 1, 4 double crochet, all into this same space here. So there's my 4, chain 1, and then 4 more into that same space. 3 and 4. And then I'm going to do the sides. So we're going to go 3 double crochet, and then another 3 double crochet into that next chain 3 space. It's pretty straightforward. And then get my tail out of the way. So remember we worked a double crochet stitch over here. We're going to work 4 double crochets into that space between the cluster and that very last double crochet stitch on the edge there. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and kind of pull it back so that it stays straight, and then you would fasten off. So there you have it. There's your half hexie. Okay, now I'm going to rip that out and show you how to actually join it in a blanket. Do, 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 do. And maybe take a sip of coffee, because coffee is life. Right? Let's get my blanket. And I saved the last spot for this tutorial, specifically. So on the ball, like planning ahead and doing that, guys, you have no idea. Okay, so we want to join this to our blanket. Our blanket is finished, it's all joined up. Now we're just finishing off the tops. What I'm going to do is start with, excuse me, oh my gosh, my allergies drive me crazy. I'm all froggy. I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook. Boom. Okay. Now, I'm going to take the corner of my blanket. So I want to join into this space. I'm going to take this corner right here, and I'm going to insert my hook into that chain 1 space. Okay, I'm going to yarn over and just pull through that slip stitch, or that slip knot. Okay, and we're going to leave that down below. I'm going to yarn over and do a standing double crochet into this space here. Okay, the space between my chain 4 and my first cluster stitch. Insert my hook, grab my yarn from behind, okay, my working yarn. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is a standing double crochet. Excuse me. Now we're doing the solid join with the braided look. So I'm going to insert my hook into that first double crochet stitch here into the top of it. So I'm going to insert and yarn over and pull through for a little slip stitch, and I'm going to continue working on this hexie here. So I'm going to yarn over and work a double crochet and then slip stitch into the top of the next stitch and then work my double crochet slip stitch, and work my double crochet. So there you have your 4 stitches to start, okay? See that? Oh, the white kind of blends in, doesn't it? I'm not even watching my screen. Okay, get my tail out of the way. Now I'm going to not slip stitch into this one. I always like to go into the actual space between our granny clusters. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the space, do my slip stitch, and then we're gonna work our next granny cluster over here. So I'm gonna put 3 double crochets into this spot. We'll start with my first one, then slip stitch into the top of that first stitch, work my double crochet into that same spot, slip stitch into the next one, and work my 3rd double crochet, okay? Then I'm going to slip stitch into the space between my clusters and work my next set in the next chain 3 space. So my first double crochet, slip stitch, next double crochet, slip stitch, and my 3rd. And this is really easy because all we're doing is just following along, right? So if you ever forget where you're at, just look at this side of the hexie, right? We're just mirroring it. That's all we're doing. So now we're at the corner, so we know I have to work 4 double crochets into this next chain 3 space. Okay, so I'm going to start with my first one. Maybe move this down a little. Slip stitch, work my second one, slip stitch, my 3rd, slip stitch. Okay, now I have 4 stitches in my corner. I'm going to slip stitch into my corner space, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the adjacent hexie's corner, like that. And I'm just going to chain 1 to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. So chain 1, yarn over, and we're going to continue to finish. Oh gosh, I'm not even on screen. Here we go. I'm going to finish this corner that we started, right? So I'm going to work my first double crochet, and then we're working along this edge now. So we're going to go into this stitch here, work my second double crochet, slip stitch, my 3rd, slip stitch, and my 4th. And then I'm going to slip stitch in between my 2 clusters. And I'm just going to pull back so you can see what we've done. Okay, so that's our corner all joined up. So now we are going to grab our yarn again and just work across the top of our hexie. Work my first double crochet, slip stitch, my next one, slip stitch, my 3rd, and then I'm going to go in between my granny clusters, okay? And then I'm going to work my next set into the next chain 3 space. Okay, we're at a corner, so now I know I need to mirror that on this side. So I'm going to do my first of 4. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, and trying to get this whole blanket on screen here. My desk isn't big enough. Oh dear, a knot, of course. Are you kidding me? Not a true knot. Good try, Mr. Knot. Good try. Sabotage my video. All right, into the corner we go, because I've worked my 4 double crochet stitches, although that one's a little sloppy because I was fighting with a knot. Maybe he did sabotage my video. Evil knot. Okay, into our adjacent hexie's corner. Don't mind my rambling like a crazy person here. Okay, chain 1 for wiggle room. And we're going to finish our last side of the Hexie. So I'm gonna work on this corner again. I'm gonna work my first double crochet, slip stitch my second one, slip stitch my third one, slip stitch, and my fourth. Now I'm going to work my slip stitch in between these two granny clusters. Okay. And then we're going to mirror the sides. So I'm going to do 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then our last corner, we're only going to work the first 4 stitches, right? So I'm going to yarn over, and in between the last cluster and this double crochet, I'm going to work my first, okay, slip stitch, my second slip stitch, my third slip stitch, and my fourth. Now I'm going to slip stitch into this chain 1 space and fasten off. Okay. Oh, look at all my ends coming at me. I'm trying to steal the show here. All right, so we have a joined half Hexie. All you have to do is sew those last 2 tails in. Okay, so I would weave it down into the back of these stitches and then back and forth into this corner, and I would do the same on this side. So I would take my ends, weave it in this way, and just weave it back and forth 2 or 3 times into the end of that, and it's all cleaned up. Oh, and this tail, we wove that into the end of our stitches, so we can cut that off. So there you are. You have your half Hexie. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care, guys.